Welcome to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're here to explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we've invited some of Iowa's experts on senior living, Di Findley and Cindy Raymer from Iowa Caregivers. They're dedicated to helping seniors make the most of life and are working on a critical shortage of direct care workers. Now, even if you're a long way from being a senior citizen, whether you like the idea or not, if you're lucky enough to survive life, you will become a senior citizen. And that, my friends, makes this a very important topic. Let's learn a little bit about our guests. Di, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us why you're here and give us an idea of what we're dealing with.
Well, thank you, Peter. We're grateful to have the opportunity to be here and talk to you about the issues surrounding direct care workers, the direct care workforce. It's a really high impact segment of our workforce. They impact employers who are in dire straits right now because they can't find and keep people in these positions. It has a huge impact on the consumers who rely on direct care workers to help them stay in their own homes or in other care and support settings. It even impacts the business community and family caregivers. So a very far-reaching impact of this workforce, and there are too few of them. And they also, and it's not just seniors that they impact, but it's older Iowans as well as individuals with disabilities, and including children with disabilities. So,
yeah, I tend to jump to conclusions sometimes when we look at senior as a broad category, but you have some very specific needs in Iowa communities that involve direct care workers.
Right across the board.
Yeah, now how do you approach the priorities that you're looking at?
Well, you know, we can talk about the problems, I guess, until the cows come home, and it seems like we have, you know, for years. But, you know, this is a segment of the workforce, predominantly women. They are, you know, they earn an income of median hourly wage of $13.80 an hour, and by most standards, that's poverty wages. A lot of them are relying on our public assistance programs like child care subsidies, and they have their children health insurance through the Hawkeye program. So it's no wonder it's challenging, you know, finding and keeping people in these jobs.
So health insurance doesn't help with these costs? I think for most of these people don't have that kind of support system?
About 25% are relying on Medicaid or the Hawkeye program for their health care coverage. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that there's such a disparity between how important a job this is for people that need this type of care to survive and how much they pay?
Well, I think it's a number of things. You know, we have a lot of conversations within our organization and with a lot of stakeholders that we partner with about how we value this workforce. And Cindy can probably speak to this as well as anyone, having been there and done it. I worked as a nurse aide myself for about 13 years, so I kind of understand it too firsthand. But there is a stigma attached to the nature of the work that these people do. It's even built into our educational system. It's viewed as entry-level work. And it doesn't matter if you've been working in this field like some, Cindy, for over 30 years, some, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. You're still viewed as an entry-level worker. And so that's wrong, and we need to change the way we think and talk about people who work in this field. For many of them, it is a chosen career. For others, it's a pathway, you know, to go on to become a licensed nurse or, you know, some other health professional. So there's that. It's also viewed as women's work, devalued women's work. And, you know, we work with men in caregiving too, and that's another whole issue. You know, they are stigmatized because they're doing women's work, and why would you want to do women's work? So they have another whole set of challenges.
Sort of like the male nurse thing
Exactly.
30 years ago. People didn't understand that.
Right, right.
Well, Cindy, you've got 30, oh, nice. So you're an entry-level worker after 30 years of experience. What a story that must be.
Yeah, I stayed with it because I liked working with people and giving them quality care, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's not something that you just do. You learn how to do, to make them feel good.
So what I'm hearing is that it's people with passion like that do the work.
Right.
They're not attracted there because of the great benefits and the pay. People actually care about the population they're working with.
You don't stay in something for 30 years just because it's there and you get great pay. Because, no, you don't get great pay. And you don't have benefits and stuff. And that's part of the reason why I've been involved with Iowa Caregivers for probably 22 years, because I found out that we needed to advocate and try and make people aware of what we do, why we do it, and the fact that we do not get compensated for what we do.
Well, those are excellent points. And when we come back from the break, I'd like to talk about some of the issues that relate to why you started Iowa Caregivers. When we return, we'll continue the conversation about direct care and the critical shortage of workers we face in Iowa. You don't want to miss this.
Extreme Internet customers, it's time to turn up the speed and feel everything faster. With extreme speeds up to 1 gig, the streaming is astounding. The control, fierce. It won't just stun you, it'll go to your head. Extreme Internet customers boost your speed for as low as $10 more a month for 1 year. Call 844-EXTREME-5.
The home phone. We don't use it like we used to. But add Extreme Phone Service for just $4.99 a month for a year, and you'll quickly see the value. It's a great backup for your cell phone, a ready device in case of an emergency. It's a phone that your kids can always access, and a reliable way to reach someone at home, like your sitter, teen, or spouse, when their cell is on silent, out of battery, or simply out of sight. Add Extreme Phone to your home for just $4.99 a month for a year. Call 844-EXTREME-5.
It's part of your everyday. So every day, we at Mediacom endeavor to make it faster, smarter, and more powerful. We're redefining home entertainment with our Extreme platform, bringing you new features with TiVo and easy-to-access apps right on TV. And over the last several years, we've invested more than $1 billion into the advancement of our technology and infrastructure.
Because the further we reach, the further you go.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking about the direct care worker shortage in Iowa. And the importance of these workers for people with disabilities, for seniors, is just unfathomable. And what can we really do about this? Well, we have a couple of experts in the room that have dedicated their lives to doing something. Let's learn more about them. Di, when did you start the organization?
I think it will be 28 years ago in May.
Okay. What motivated you originally, and then what are the challenges you face today? What do you see as some of the solutions that we can actually do? I mean, it's in my head that we would think our local legislators would be working with you to make this better.
Can I tell a funny story first about starting the organization out of my basement? I always like telling them I had a Baby Mac computer, the little black and white screen, 12-inch screen, and a hunter green Princess telephone that I bought from a garage sale. So that's how the organization started. So we've come a long way since then, and things have changed. I mean, the issues are similar, but they've just gotten progressively worse because of demographics and all the, they've just gotten worse over the years. But I think, you know, because of our existence and because we have a presence, I think we have done a good job of raising awareness about who direct care workers are and what they do and what an important role they play in the lives of Iowans. And we have had some influence, not a lot. We don't have a PAC, you know, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, so we don't have, you know, a ton of clout at the Capitol, but we do work diligently on trying to get legislation passed that will benefit not just, you know, that's another thing. It seems like when it comes to solutions, we have focused for so many years just on one particular stakeholder. You know, it's either the employers or it's the consumer. You know, you mentioned silos earlier when we we were talking, and we have tried so hard the last few years to bring all of these stakeholders together, because until we work together to come up with solutions that's going to work for everybody, we're going to continue to be faced with these challenges.
Yeah, we look at a world where, I mean, everything's disposable, and to some extent, people with disabilities and seniors have become that, where they're off in a corner of the world and they don't get a lot of attention, and apparently not enough services. Now, if they're not getting direct care support, how are they being taken care of? What is happening? What happens out there when somebody doesn't have someone like you that cares about them?
It can be really bad. I've gotten connected with some friends just in the last few months since I've gone out of healthcare, and advocating for them, and the fact that there are some that have been left in bed for hours without staff because they thought they had staff coming, and the staff didn't show up for one reason or another. Maybe they had problems with family, or a car broke down, or they quit because they weren't getting enough wages to survive.
And there's no backup. That person
No.
of need is just left alone.
Right.
Now, you're making some inroads on ideas and policies to try and improve that, right?
Yeah, we're trying. You know, we contracted with Workforce Development last year to do this direct care worker wage and benefit survey, which is a bit of a departure from what they usually do. They usually survey employers. So this is kind of a nice complement to the employer survey. But, you know, they surveyed the direct care workers themselves, and that does shed a little bit different light. And so that's where we were able to drill down a little bit more and to find out about their reliance on some of the public assistance or the worker support programs. And it provides us with the resources to share with the legislators in hopes that they'll use this to make well-informed decisions. And you know, I think the other thing when we talk about compensation or wages, first off, you've got to define what compensation is, because it means different things to different people. But we had suggested a couple years ago a commission or a task force or a council, and I know a lot of people look down on that. The last thing we need is another, you know, study group or something. But I think it's, for this particular issue, I think would be helpful to bring all the stakeholders to the table and have a conversation about, you know, what are some strategies to enhance, what can we do to enhance the compensation, the wages and compensation for direct care workers? And we always go down two paths. It's either provider reimbursement rate or increasing the minimum wage. And I'm convinced that if you bring the right people together, that there are a lot of other things maybe in between that we could come up with that could help this workforce tremendously.
One thing we've learned about people at risk is they're sort of invisible. And they can't really get up and go to the Capitol or go protest or go and join you, so they depend on people like you to champion their case. For the sake of learning more about this, how many people are there in Iowa that are in this situation? How many quote-unquote at-risk seniors and people with disabilities are there that can't get enough services? Are we talking about hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands? I don't think it's a small number from,
No.
You know, we're an aging population in Iowa.
The workforce itself is the largest workforce in the state.
How many?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
And part of that's because we don't have the infrastructure that really gives us accurate numbers, like this Central Direct Care Worker Database that we've been advocating for a number of years. But Cindy's right, it is at least one of the largest segments of the
So
workforce.
one of the largest segments of the workforce in Iowa is underpaid, undervalued, and it's not even enough for all the seniors and children and people with disabilities that need help.
Right.
That's a scary thought. Let's continue that discussion after the break. When we come back, we're going to take a closer look at maybe what you can do to help. If you're a senior, have a senior in your family, or somebody with disabilities that you care about, these are some really important issues. You don't want to miss this. See you after the break.
Extreme speed. Soar from 60 meg up to 1 gig. Extreme Wi-Fi 360. It's 360 degrees of coverage and a whole new way to Wi-Fi. Extreme power. Streaming so real you can feel it. Feel it. Extreme reliability. because your life depends on it. Add Extreme Internet for as low as $14.99 a month for 1 year. Call 844-EXTREME-5.
The home phone. We don't use it like we used to. But add Extreme phone service for just $4.99 a month for a year, and you'll quickly see the value. It's a great backup for your cell phone, a ready device in case of an emergency. It's a phone that your kids can always access, and a reliable way to reach someone at home, like your sitter, teen, or spouse, when their cell is on silent, out of battery, or simply out of sight. Add Extreme Phone to your home for just $4.99 a month for a year. Call 844-EXTREME-5.
New Extreme 1 gig. In your neighborhood and in every neighborhood Mediacom serves. Insanely fast and crazy powerful. This is a fiber-rich network that's light years beyond. It's future-forward speed. With supersonic in-home Wi-Fi, so you can live in live stream, explore virtual worlds, and absolutely rule yours. Go further with Extreme.
We're talking with Di and Cindy about the importance of direct care workers to Iowa's seniors, people with disabilities in general, an at-risk population in Iowa, and how they're approaching a solution that can make life better for Iowans. Now, we have this large number of people that you serve, a large workforce, I mean, on par with retail, so there's a lot out there. Now, hospitals have nurses and all this kind of stuff, but these aren't people that typically move to a residential care facility. They're all over the map, if I understand it correctly. So your workers have to be able to address them in every kind of situation and condition possible.
Yes. Yeah. I don't jump in here, Cindy, but I mean the portability issue is.
Well, there's staff that work in nursing homes. There's staff that work in hospitals. There's staff that work in home or community-based. The last 5 years that I worked, I did community-based setting, which was working with people in their homes, but taking them out, getting them exercise, doing their shopping, taking them to doctor's appointments, a lot of things that they need. There's a lot of different titles involved with direct care staff that encompasses the workforce that I was talking about. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Well, no, but it is complicated because if a person, you know, you have a lot of workers that you represent, they don't have a consistent identity in terms of how they're certified or what their labels are.
Yeah.
And we've learned that it's a large workforce.
Right.
But it also doesn't hold people well because a lot of people migrate to better paying and better benefited jobs. Are there more direct care workers in hospitals or in the community? I mean, how are hospitals dealing with this issue?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been in conversations with hospital acute care providers too, and especially I think in some of these rural parts of the state, they too are dealing with a lot of challenges. I mean, we also had Workforce Development do a survey, just kind of a point-in-time survey of employers finding out, you know, what's it like on the ground out there, and that was it. I mean, they can't fill vacancies, and it's taking them much longer to fill vacancies. And they're very concerned about the number of people who are going to be retiring over the next few years. And you know, and that's one of the things too I think that we could look at is an older workforce. You've got, you know, the immigrant workforce. There are other populations that could be tapped. But one of the survey questions we asked of when we did the wage and benefit survey, we asked people if they were going to be retiring in the next 5 years, and if so, would they consider, you know, staying in the field, and if so, under what conditions they would do that? And yeah, a large percentage of them, because like Cindy, they love what they do, but their bodies can't, you know, they just can't take it anymore. It's physically, you know, demanding kind of work. So if you could take some of the physicality out of the work, make the hours more flexible, and pay more, they would stay in the field longer, which could help fill some of those gaps too.
Now, if somebody wants to get in the field as a direct care worker, what paths can they entertain to get started? Because hopefully also attracting more people to the business would help. Yeah,
we definitely, you've got, you know, it's a two-edged sword. We need to recruit people, find people, get people into the field, and, you know, on this path, in the pipeline, as they say, but we also need to be providing opportunities to grow within the field of direct care so that we can keep people in those jobs too. Retention is really, really important. But we work closely with the Job Corps, Atema Job Corps. The community colleges do a lot of great programs. They've got a PACE program. They work with ESL programs and recruiting and training people for these occupations. The governor has a new Future Ready Iowa initiative that's focused on workforce, and there are some pieces within that bill that is supporting apprenticeship programs and so forth that might benefit some people going into this field, but there's a wage threshold in it in order to be eligible, and for some of the programs you have to be in a 2-year associate degree program in order to qualify. So would be nice to see some enhancements to that kind of that legislation.
So there's prospects and reasons for optimism that there's some good things happening.
Yep.
Well, that's great points. Let's come back for our final segment. We're going to ask you for a little bit of advice, maybe. After a short break, we'll invite our guests to share their final comments and some good advice to help you better understand the challenges they face and how it may affect you. You don't want to miss this. See you after the break.
Wi-Fi here, Wi-Fi there. Wi-Fi where you've never Wi-Fi'd before. Wi-Fi beyond walls, beyond boundaries, beyond compare. Wi-Fi like your house is one giant hotspot, the hottest hotspot. Sound extreme? It is. Add Extreme Wi-Fi 360 for $5 a month for 1 year. Call 844-EXTREME-5.
It's part of your everyday. So every day, we at Mediacom endeavor to make it faster, smarter, and more powerful. We're redefining home entertainment with our Extreme platform, bringing you new features with TiVo and easy-to-access apps right on TV. And over the last several years, we've invested more than $1 billion into the advancement of our technology and infrastructure.
Because the further we reach, the further you go.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We are tackling a major problem today, the direct care worker shortage that's critical to the care of many aging and disabled Iowans. Now, we can't fix the problem with the time we have here, but you can continue the conversation after the show and try to help. Let's see a little bit more about what our experts have to say. Di, what are some of your biggest priorities right now in terms of trying to help with this crisis?
Well, one of the biggest priorities right now is a piece of legislation. It's House File 2117, and it passed out of subcommittee, but it didn't pass out of committee before the funnel last week. But we've been in conversations with some legislators, and we're hoping that there still may be a way to advance that. But it's something that we've been working on for a number of years. We've had Republicans introduce it and Democrats introduce it, and we can't seem to get it through. And we've changed it and revised it.
What does it do?
That's a good question. Yeah. What it does is it creates a centralized direct care worker database system, because they don't have a licensing board or anything like that. There is a direct care worker registry that exists within the Department of Inspections and Appeals. But they are required only by federal law to maintain the names of those who are eligible to work in nursing homes only, by certified nursing assistants or CNAs. So you've got all these other workers out there in home care and and hospital aides. I mean, they all have training of some kind, or most of them do, but there's no central place in which that those credentials can be housed, and if we had that, it would make their credentials more portable, which would make the workforce more portable. It could also provide a public portal, so for people with disabilities and family caregivers who are looking for workers with certain skills, it could become a resource for them. It's a win-win for employers. We've heard from employers saying this would be huge in helping us with our onboarding and not having to do the same training over and over and over again. So we've tried in working with all the different stakeholders to come up with something that will be a plus for everyone.
Now, people watching the show, there's a lot of seniors, a lot of people that know people that are facing problems like this. Where can they go and what can they do to try and help? Should they call their legislators and say, hey, do something about this?
Sure, that would be great. Calling their legislators or sending them an email with nothing more than a simple message that says, place a high priority on the direct care workforce, and please support a centralized direct care worker database system.
This is very close to you too, right? Because when you started, you didn't really think this was going to be something you could do.
Right. Yeah.
And you're a powerful advocate now.
Yes, I have been. I told my story quite a few years ago. Having no health care and being a healthcare worker, and subsequently lost my husband 14 years ago with a massive heart attack. He was diabetic, and we ended up having to file bankruptcy because we had no insurance and a $33,000 hospital bill.
Well, this is an amazing story, and these tragedies are tough, but to see that you've directed your life to helping people at risk is a real positive thing. What would you tell people when they're facing these kinds of challenges to look at in their heart that's important?
Just realize everybody needs care. Hands-on care is more important than anything. And disabled and elderly, the only way that they thrive is to have other people that show they care and help them and keep them comfortable. That's what I want. I'm a baby boomer, so I'm eventually going to need care myself.
So care and love and compassion, that's a big part of what you guys are working toward. Thank you so very much for sharing your stories. And thank you for joining us today, and keep your eye on Mediacom MC22 for our next episode, where we explore Iowa's stories of survival, hope, and inspiration on Surviving Bad, only on Mediacom MC22, your local programming leader.